Hello everyone, hello rail fans, we're back.
Hi everyone.
It's been a while. So before we begin our Rivet Games Dev Spotlight, please could you let us know if you can hear us in the comments.
Yeah, get us an AV check. Can you see? Can you hear? I don't think the game is making any noise at the moment, but can I get a shout out from the Rivet guys, just to make sure that you can hear what's coming on Skype as well?
Yeah, so today we're joined by Colin McDonald, who is a commercial director at Rivet Games, and Matt Price, lead vehicle artist at Rivet Games. So if Colin and Matt could say hi.
Hey everyone.
Hi, how are you?
And we're very glad to have you here. And so could people in the comments please let us know if you can hear all of us, all four of us.
Skype is well quiet, he says.
Okay, I'll have a look. So how are you doing, Colin and Matt? How are you doing today? It's a busy day for you.
Yeah, I think probably busier for me than for Matt today and yesterday, because Matt's like the co-face of development, so he's basically been flat out the last few months and was managed to get the route finished in time, and yesterday and today was more over to me in terms of promoting it and speaking to everyone about it. So don't know, Matt, but you've not had your feet up though, Matt, have you?
Sorry, what did you... I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, you've not just had your feet up now that you've finished all.
No. I'm working on new stuff, but yeah, probably not as busy as you.
Yeah, so thank you guys. Seems that there's everything's fine with the sound right now, and it's very good to hear. So we haven't had a stream for a very long time. I think when was the last stream that we had? Was it in June?
Must have been about a month ago. Yeah.
No, more than that, because I was on holiday from 20th of June. I think.
Holiday? I didn't approve that.
Sorry, but I have to go home occasionally to see family. So so I think the last stream was 23rd of May when we launched TVL, and we didn't have one for Switcher, so we're very happy to be here. So obviously the agenda, we are looking at Godadban route, which came out yesterday. It's currently available on Steam and Rivet Games website. It goes with a 17% discount right now for the next 2 weeks, so it's a great opportunity for you to pick it up right now. We're going to be playing 3 scenarios. I will be playing 3 scenarios, while Matt will be interrogating our guests to find out as much as possible about both the route and Rivet Games as well, because Rivet Games is a new company. This is their first route, so we wanted to give them a nice highlight, but also see how we will deal with having, whole 4 people on the stream, which is very nice, and I think it's great. So since everything's working fine, I'll go straight to the first scenario that we're going to play. It's I'm sorry for my Swiss/German pronunciation, but if I'm not mistaken, it's Göschenen to Erstfeld.
That's it.
Yep.
So yeah, this is a pretty interesting scenario where you sort of have to catch a train, so at least for the first half, and it's not very easy, it's quite challenging. But while everything is loading, Matt, I guess you will start with a couple of first questions, and which is, talk about yourself, Colin and Matt.
Yeah. Tell us about yourselves.
I'll start, and Colin.
Sure.
Rivet has only existed for 6 months, so I've been with the company since then, but I've been in the games industry for nearly 30 years, although I'm quite new to the train world and the train simulation world. But I've been around doing all sorts of games, from Grand Theft Auto to Crackdown to a bunch of Channel 4 games in the past, but it's been exciting these last 6 months to get involved in the train sim world.
Yeah, and I've worked with Dovetail for about 7 years making vehicles, and now I'm working with Rivet Games doing pretty much the same job.
Fantastic.
So how old is Rivet Games? Just tell us about the company itself.
So Rivet Games is let me just look at my calendar here. It is 6 months and 1 day old. It was formed on February the 1st. We're based up in Stirling in Scotland. On day one, there was about 10 of us.
Yep.
There was Matt, and I think was it about 8 people
Yeah.
that had all worked together and built previous routes for Dovetail. And then since then we've grown a little bit. I think we're up to, is it 19 now?
Yeah, there's about 19 of us in the office.
Growing rapidly then.
And there's a mix of skills. Matt, do you want to summarise what sort of different departments we've got in the mix of skills we've got, perhaps?
So we've got, I would say, 3, maybe 4 departments, depending on how you want to break them down. We've got a route building department, which pretty much goes through and lays all the kind of scenery down in the routes, does terrain, places trees, and all the stuff that you see in the routes. We've got then an environment art team which actually builds the stuff for the route builders. So they'll make buildings and the trees and stations and even the catenary and the signals. They make all of those assets. Then you have my team, which actually builds the vehicles. And then we have a 4th team which lays track and places signals and does a bit of scripting and some of the more technical stuff for the vehicles.
That's awesome. So, how much experience would you say you've got developing for Train Sim 2019?
Tons.
Yeah,
Tons.
there's quite a lot of
not
experience.
personally, but yeah, Matt and the rest of the team.
Yeah, I think we kind of took a note down, and from the original team that's there's about 75 years worth of experience. But then we've grown our team since the company was formed, and a lot of the new guys are catching up and learning a lot.
That's awesome. So, who are the people behind Rivet Games? Are you all rail fans with experience in Train Sim, or representatives from other industries?
It's a bit of a mix. I think I think I'm probably the black sheep that has come not from other industries as such, but from elsewhere in the games industry. Everyone else in the company has been making either Train Simulator itself, if you count Tim Gatland going back in the very early days of Dovetail, or making content for Train Sim and Train Sim World. Whereas I joined, not with train experience as such, but just having been around the games industry, working on mobile games, console games, PC games, free games, premium games, just to, partly to bring that different experience. So the last 6 months have kind of been a very steep learning curve for me, getting up to speed on everything Train Sim and what matters most to the players.
So you're very sort of knowledgeable about general games production, marketing. So you bring quite a lot of experience yourself to Rivet in this case, helping to build everything together. Yeah,
that's the plan. I mean, it's we've got quite big ambitions at Rivet. We're hopefully, as everyone's seen with this first route, that we want to do routes that are really high quality, are really special. We're wanting to break into new areas. We're wanting to work with new partners in terms of the train companies, and in terms of what trains we can get access to. But all of that stuff takes time. It all means we've got to push sales of the route as much as possible to be blunt. That's what pays for the to give the team the time to make it as high quality as that. So it's basically my job to do all that, what some see as the boring stuff, to facilitate the team to make as much content and as high quality content as possible.
Mm-hmm. So you're very busy.
I certainly have been these last couple of days. Yeah, and there's always something we can all be doing.
Yeah.
But whereas for the development team, the work winds down as they finish off the route and it gets ready for launch. For me, it's the polar opposite. But it all evens out. We're all, we've all got a million things to do. We're all busy, and it just sort of ebbs and flows between who's busy at any one time.
Yeah, absolutely. So every TS19 developer puts their own unique style and features into a particular product. How does Rivet stand out from the crowd?
So I'm not sure we have a style. I mean, because this is our first route, there's not a particular style or particular features that we've aimed for. It's really just been about the quality and engagement and the amount of effort and research that's gone into it. I mean, for example, Matt, you can maybe talk about, you did a research trip out.
Yeah. So Alan and I actually went out to Switzerland to research the 460 for this route, and we got to talk to the drivers, and they got to sit through and explain pretty much how everything in the vehicle works. So that helped a lot for us. Actually building and also implementing all the scripting and stuff for the vehicle. But there was also a lot of research done for signaling and getting that all set up so that the systems all work together. And also just getting good reference for the stations and the routes.
That's really cool.
If you don't mind, Matt,
go for it.
I don't know if we talked about, but have you guys mentioned that Alan Thompson is part of Rivet Games, and he was responsible for other Swiss routes, so I think it's worth mentioning which routes they were.
They're Austrian routes, things like the Albula line and things like that. Yeah, Alan Thompson's very well known in the community, and it's really cool to see him playing such a big role in Rivet Games.
Yes, and if you want guys, watch a little sort of interview or rather a dev blog featuring Alan Thompson and other guys from Rivet. You can go to Rivet Games YouTube channel and have a look, because they've got some really, really nice dev blogs that give a little bit of an insight into how route development works, as well as vehicle development.
So on my notes down here, it actually says that you've been doing collaboration with some other developers on TS as part of the Gotthard-Bahn route for compatibility and so forth. Do you want to just talk us through a little bit about what that's involved?
Yeah, sure. I mean, one of the things we were really keen to do when we set up the new company was, was not to try and step on toes, because there's a ton of amazing developers out there making great content for all different aspects and different regions in train sim. So when we decided we were going to look at Switzerland, we're looking at who does content out there. So we met up with Paul Mersel of Trainworks, and he actually came over to Scotland, came up to Stirling, spent the day in the office with the guys. We went out for a beer. We sat there on the banks of the Forth River in Scotland, watching the trains go back and forth over the Forth Bridge, which was just the perfect setting for a meeting with someone like Paul. And he's obviously created a bunch of stock over the years, and we were really keen that when we launched this route, that as well as the vehicles that Matt's team had built, that we worked with Paul so that he was able to bring his stock up to speed so that it would run on the route. So I believe he's been frantically trying to finish off the work the last couple of weeks, and I've not had a chance to speak to him the last couple of days, but I've seen some posts he's put on Facebook and Twitter, so I believe he's got those models modified, and they'll now run on the new Gotthard-Bahn route that we released yesterday, and that's been perfect, because that's just a win-win for everyone. It means people have more stock to run on the routes. Paul's got hopefully more people interested in buying his models, because people are buying the route that we've now released, and it's just great being able to collaborate with someone like Paul, rather than us worry that he thinks we're stepping on his toes or anything like that. We want to be as collaborative as we can.
Absolutely. That's really cool. That's really cool. So that will help everybody in the long term.
Sorry, Matt. By the way, guys, those who are watching the stream, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, because there are only so many questions that we can ask.
And, if you've got questions for Rivet, post them up.
Absolutely.
And, if I miss them, then post them again on
Yep.
Poke and Moderator to get them to poke.
Please do so.
Right. So, for those who are Train Sim 19 fans, have you got any hints or tips of what you're expecting in terms of releases?
In the future, I mean, I will say, obviously with someone like Alan Thompson on board, he started out doing what he was doing because he had a love of Swiss railways. He's done a bunch of routes that have gone down really well. We've built on that and made more great connections, obviously at SBB with his existing connections at RHB. So it's too early for us to announce anything, but I think it's safe to say we're far from done with Switzerland.
Excellent. I think everyone's very happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, we definitely want to look at other countries as well. That's very much in the plan, but I mean, Switzerland, there's just no end of amazing routes you could do, and cool trains. We've had a bunch of suggestions on our forums, and I'm trying to keep on top of all the other forums, and people are just suggesting a million different things, and everyone would love to do as much of it as possible. Obviously, there's a limit, but yeah, definitely more Swiss stuff. He says, as long as you don't ask me to put my house on the line for that.
No promises.
Swiss stuff's definitely the plan, but also other countries. We'd love to look at some other countries as well. So, and we don't want that to be too far in the future. We're looking to. We've got a great team. They're super experienced. They're quite a big team. 19 people's not a small team. So we can we can do stuff to really high quality and do it relatively quickly. It's you can't make routes of this scale overnight, but we can do it at a scale that means we don't have to wait years to get it done.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Actually, it's almost like you've got the same set of questions I have. Segues us nicely into the next question. So 19 people on your first release, you've actually come out of the gate as a reasonably substantial developer. What influenced the decision to, do that, to come out the gate as a quite a sizable independent developer, as opposed to maybe starting out small and building up?
I mean, we've all been around for a while. We don't do things lightly. We don't do small things. If we're going to do it, we'll do it properly. And it really just sort of talks to our ambition and the quality we want to do things at. That we would rather do more and better, quicker, rather than taking years to do less things. And it's kind of when you look at someone like Alan, he was doing those routes, the RHB routes, pretty much by himself.
Yep.
But it was taking him forever. He was working all the hours day and night, and it was still taking him a year or so to produce a route. Whereas instead we've scaled up, got amazing people, and we want to do a lot more. I mean, there's also an element of it takes time to expand a team. So we started with the likes of Matt and a core team that were super experienced. But we've brought on a bunch of graduates, and it takes time to for them to get up to speed. They're brilliant people, but they're not up and running at full speed on day one. So as well as producing this route, Matt's also been doing training as well. Is that fair, Matt?
Yeah, definitely.
I actually wanted to ask one thing. So you're based in Scotland, is that right?
Yes, we're in Stirling in Scotland, yeah.
Yeah, I'm asking because Dundee, which is, I suppose, not very close to Stirling, but it still has I think, Abertay University, which is quite famous for its game development courses. So do you have any people who studied at that university, or?
Yeah, several, yeah. Yeah, I mean, in terms of games, Abertay is definitely one of the leading games universities in the UK and definitely in Scotland. So yeah, we've definitely had. I think of the people we've hired since we set up, I can think of at least two people. Matt, I don't know if you know any others, but it's certainly been several.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think two is probably right. I think the rest of the team are from other universities around Scotland.
But this is, where if you look at Scotland on a map and where Stirling is, it's kind of right in the middle. That we're basically 40 minutes from Edinburgh, 40 minutes from Glasgow, a little bit further from Dundee, but not much further. So we get people that either live or have at least studied in any of those three cities, as well as the people that have studied or lived in Stirling itself. So we're kind of accessible to four major cities in Scotland. So it gives us a great source of talent.
I'm also curious, do you have mostly people with sort of British citizenship, or do you have international EU employees as well?
Well, Matt, you're probably well placed to answer that.
We've got a few. I'm originally from South Africa, but I am a British citizen now, so I don't know how you want to call that. And I think we've got at least one, maybe two other people who are not UK citizens. I'm not too sure on their status, but we do have other people from Europe and elsewhere.
That's awesome.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it's a nice mix, and I've always found it actually creates better products. Kind of the broader mix of people you have, it just brings different perspectives and a different culture, and people have different, just slightly different ways of looking at things and opinions about things. And at the end of the day, we want these roots and these products to be played by people the world over. So we kind of need that perspective internally if it's going to appeal externally.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah.
Before
we go on, sorry.
I have another question.
Fire away.
So with Dovetail, we do have a sort of company core values, the type of thing. But do you have something like that? Do you have a sort of atmosphere in the office that is perhaps productive, or is there any way you actually motivate each other, or from top down? Is there any ways you encourage others to be effective at your workplace? If that makes sense as a question.
I mean, I think we're too new to have anything sort of formal. I mean, Matt, jump in if anything springs to mind.
Yeah.
From my perspective, it's make great stuff.
Yeah, I would agree. We're quite new, so we haven't like you said formally kind of given ourselves core values, but a lot of us have been doing this for a long time, and we do take pride in our work, and we have a kind of a level that we want to always achieve when we're creating products and working on our routes and our vehicles and stuff like that. So I think that is coming across to the new guys. They're all keen to show what they can do, and that's kind of our values right now. Just trying to make good stuff.
Thank you very much. And for the people who just joined the stream, we have two guys from Rivet Games, a new company that have created the Gotthardbahn route, which just came out yesterday. It's based in Switzerland. So we have them as guests. We have Colin, who is a commercial director, and Matt, who is a lead vehicle artist. So we are very happy to have them here and actually talk to someone new instead of just talking to ourselves all the time.
I enjoy talking to ourselves, though. No, this is awesome. Before we move on to the route, Carl Leonard's a question on Twitch, just going back to possible future. Just interested to know whether or not you think that UK routes might be on the cards for potential future stuff, maybe?
I mean, we wouldn't rule anything out. I think, to be honest, the UK is quite well served by everything that Dovetail does. So I think there's other territories we can look at where we can sort of fill more of a gap. There's so many countries out there as far as I know, have no sort of really high quality commercial routes of the sort of quality that we put out today. Whereas in the UK, there's quite a big selection. So I think our preference would be to look at new territories and also try and broaden broaden the market a bit. You know, if there's countries with no content, if we can bring a couple of routes in whatever country that is online, if that means more people are then playing and buying Train Simulator in a whole new country, it opens everything up to so many more people.
Okay, awesome.
That's great, thank you.
Okay, so let's move on and have a chat about the route then. So, why Swiss?
Why Swiss? Why Switzerland? It's. I mean, certainly, Alan Thompson knows Swiss Railways inside and out. He's done a great job with the 3 routes he's done in the past, and that's given us an advantage in terms of relationships and knowing how things like signalling work, etc. But the bottom line, it comes down to there's just so many amazing routes that we know people are clamouring for. The Gotterband's one that Alan's always wanted to do, but the sheer scale of it, it's 110 kilometres easy. The poor guy trying to do these routes all by himself. I mean, he'd be there for decades trying to do this, and certainly at this level of quality, everything that's been done in the cab and everything. So it's everything that's appealing about the Swiss Railways in real world. It's amazing. It's amazing scenery. It's amazing architecture. The train itself is so iconic, and we've got we sort of had a leg up based on Alan's experience. Do you think that's fair, Matt?
Yeah, definitely. And it's a beautiful country to do. I mean, this route you can see all the Alps and all the mountains and stuff. It's that I also feel is one of the reasons why we wanted to do Switzerland, just to show more of the country.
Were you mesmerized by the country when you went there, Matt?
Yeah. When I went on the survey, we actually went up on one of the highest railways there. And it was amazing going up on the train and just seeing the countryside and seeing everything that was there.
Yeah, I mean, it looks stunning. Just looking, I often think that Train Simulator should be part of the tourist board, because I play some of these routes and I'm thinking, gosh, I need to go and visit these places because they just look stunning.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So I went out. It wasn't part of the survey trip with Matt and Alan, but I went out to Switzerland. It was May or June. And I was going around and I was speaking to the different train companies and different partners out there, and I'd allocated one day where I was going to get to travel this route. So I flew into the north of Switzerland, and I travelled down to Lucerne, ready to start at Ersfeld and go all the way down. And this turned out to be the single worst weather day in Switzerland of the entire year. So I did get to travel the route. I actually went down through the base tunnel and came back the Alpine route. But I saw absolutely nothing because it was rainy, the clouds were really low, it was foggy. Every station I got off at, I could barely see past the end of the station. So I saw very little of the amazing valleys and Alps and bridges and everything. But I got a sense of it. It was still amazing, even in terrible weather. And to me, that kind of told its own story, that even with the world's worst weather or the year's worst weather, it was still an epic way to spend a day.
Yes.
But it does just mean I have to go back and do it.
I was just thinking, that you're going to have to go back. There's nothing more for it than that. It's just, it's got
problems. Yeah, problems.
I know.
I'm actually curious. How long did it take you the whole trip to take all the photos? I think in one of the devlogs you've mentioned that you've taken. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but 10,000 photos.
That's probably right. So there was 2 trips done. Alan did probably a week surveying the routes, and then we spent maybe 2 days taking images of the vehicles and getting other reference for this route.
Yeah, so that's a lot of work for those who are wondering how much how do you create routes. It takes a lot of work and effort and money as well to be able to travel back and forth.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it's quite. I mean, it's not. It's not sort of a walk in the park. I mean, it's still an amazing opportunity. As your job to be able to get to go out and visit foreign countries. But if I'm right, Matt, you're not just sort of getting up, having a lazy late breakfast and taking a couple of pictures. I mean, you're on the go all day, every day, aren't you?
Yeah, it is hard work. So because you want to get up first thing in the morning and you want to make best use of your time while you're there, because you're, like you say, you're spending money to be out there, and you need to get the reference, and so you got to get up early, get on the trains, ride the network, and if we're having a meeting drivers and stuff like that to actually see the vehicles, we need to be there, and we need to be prepared to ask them all the questions that we need to know about the vehicle, and we need to have lists of what we want to get reference for and all that kind of stuff. So it's you get a little bit of downtime, but not a lot.
That's cool. One of the other I've seen this question, or variations of this question on the chat 2 or 3 times, which is about why was this particular period in time picked, particularly because I think at this point Base Tunnel is under construction, isn't it, as far as it is on the route that's been made, and was there a particular reason that this was chosen rather than before Base Tunnel or after Base Tunnel?
Matt, do you want to answer, or will I?
I'll let you take that one.
So this is from Alan's experience. I mean, basically although the Base Tunnel it's the new shiny tunnel, only opened a couple of years ago. At the end of the day, it's 50 odd kilometers inside a tunnel. It would still be interesting in other ways, but the Alpine route is just so much more classically beautiful that he just felt that was the way to go. But he felt if it was set, in modern day, if it was set since the Base Tunnel had opened, then it was kind of confusing that people would expect to drive through the Base Tunnel, or why didn't we do the Base Tunnel instead? So he set it back a couple of years, but he wanted to keep it relatively modern because, for example, the trains themselves obviously go through refits. So I think we've got the actual train model is a bang up to date train model.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's that and correct me if I'm wrong here, Matt, but that actually contradicts a little bit the time period when the route's actually set, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it does just a bit, by a few years.
But it was this thing. Everyone's going to want the latest, shiniest trains. SBB are going to want the latest, shiniest trains in there. It's what everyone wants. But the beauty of the route is the Alpine route. The Base Tunnel would be great in another way. So just by having it set a few years back, I think Alan's vision was you were able to get the best of both worlds, the most interesting route, but still able to justify having the latest, shiniest trains.
I thought it was great personally because I quite enjoyed. I ran the route from end to end last night, and I really liked as we came down off of the wooden tie tracks that we're on at the moment, and you get to the bit where the Base Tunnel is, and there's the nod. This is the Base Tunnel, so you sort of like you can relate to it. But you're on this route to enjoy the scenery. So. So I thought it was
absolutely,
really cool.
and I mean, it's been interesting in the comments that we've seen some people ask, is the Base Tunnel included, and then when we say no or someone else says no, they're like, oh, that's a shame. That's the new thing. I want to go through that, and then everyone else sort of pipes in, going, why? But you're just spending 45 minutes going through a tunnel.
Just turn your monitor off for 45 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I did actually go through it. It's actually way more interesting than just going through a black hole for 45 minutes, but it's not Alpine scenery, So I think we may do the base tunnel in the future, but I think to us it's this was the literally the classic route. It's in the name. This was what we had our heart set on doing.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah, I can totally see that. So how long did it take to make?
Matt?
So we actually started working on this route from pretty much day one. So since the 1st of February, and we had it finished around about, I want to say the end of June, and then we had maybe a month of bug fixing and just polishing up the route to get it ready for release.
That's really cool.
So, just I wanted to ask. So, how many people were involved from the beginning? Was it exactly 19 people from the beginning, or did you have new people joining in while you were developing it?
Yeah, no. From the start, I think we had the original 8, and then maybe I think it was like a month or so later that we got 2 or 3 artists come in and they started helping, and then over the 6 months we've grown the team. So it wasn't all at the start.
Yeah, that sounds good.
That's very cool indeed. There's a whole bunch of questions coming up on the chat regarding Train Sim World. Folks, we're going to have another stream at some point talking about Train Sim World. There'll be details up on social media about that.
Yes.
So please, I'm making mental notes of all the questions you guys are asking, but we're talking TS19 and specifically the Gothard barn today, so that's what we're focusing on. But by all means, once we get the next TSW stream, come ask your questions about TSW and we'll try our best to answer them. So, going back to the route, what would you say was the most challenging aspect of making the route?
Matt, what do you reckon?
For the actual route, because I wasn't part of the environment team, I don't know for sure what they struggled with the most. Probably just the sheer length of the routes, because there was a lot to route build and put in, and just making sure that the quality of everything from end to end was up to scratch. On the vehicles, I would say the 460 was a little bit challenging because it's got quite a unique shape on the front, and just trying to make sure that we get that looking right and actually representing SBB's design was correct was a little bit of a challenge.
Can you? I mean, yeah, we'll move on to the 460 itself a little bit later. So we're gonna go over these questions. Sorry, Matt, for
that's
fine. How difficult was getting all the necessary knowledge to build a route like this? So I think you said earlier on about you've been out to Switzerland as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think. The team have done it several times before on other routes. I think the answer is it's always difficult, if that's fair, Matt. That you go out there and you can't take the entire team. You can't spend the months you would want to capture everything in detail and from every angle that you want. So it's manic for a handful of people to go out and try and capture as much as they can, and then everyone else back in the office is working from all that reference as well as everything else they can get their hands on. I mean, we're buying books, we're buying cab view videos, we're watching videos on YouTube, we're using Google Earth, and some of this is covered in the dev blog videos that Dimitri mentioned. That it's actually interesting when you ask someone to describe their job and what's involved, and they distill it down into just the 5 minutes or so that's covered in a dev blog video. It kind of blows your mind how much they have to do and all the different factors they've got to consider, and just the amount of cross-referencing they've got to do. At the end of the day, this is it's a representation of the real world, so that the team want to make it look as amazing as possible, but it's never going to look exactly the same because it's not the real world. So they need to think really carefully about what matters most to people, what they can do within within all the limits they've got, whether it's poly limits or texture limits or game limits, and it's just, I think it's just a massive constant juggling act.
Interesting.
We've just thank you very much. So we've just completed the very first scenario.
Great
I think
work,
it went pretty
Dimitri.
well.
That
Yeah,
was
well
beautifully driven.
Very well done.
Beautifully driven. That's quite a tough run, actually. Following lights all the way.
Yep. So we're gonna move on to the next one. This one involves a little bit of freight operations with empty wagons. It's somewhat challenging as well. There will be some shunting of these wagons at the very beginning, but it will take about 28 minutes hopefully. So let's move on, and I guess we can move on to the next question as well. We will should start talking about the loco. I'm very interested to hear from Matt about how this loco actually been built, the 460, and what went into it. But let's go into the remaining questions that we have.
When
on
you
this
get
list.
into actually, next time you're in the menu, we have
Yeah.
got a question asking if someone can just have a look at the graphics settings we've got set on there. I think it's pretty much turned up to the maximum, to be honest.
It should be.
Strivilla, but we'll show you after this. We can't until we get back to the menu, though. Okay, so
Matt, I think you seem to be skipping the comments and questions you're getting about the colour of your headphones.
well, my headphones, they're lovely.
Yeah, everyone loves
They
them.
are lovely. I do
Yeah.
like them.
The Razer
They're getting
Quartz
some
Chroma
attention.
series. I've got the mouse as well. Absolutely fantastic. These are really nice headphones. But anyway, we'll have a whole stream about my headphones at some point. And my bright pink Xbox One controller as well. Right, okay, so probably I'm going to ask you each to answer this one. What's your favourite part of the route?
Oh, so for me, it's it's when I was out in Switzerland, everyone I talked to about the route, the thing they mentioned was the church, Vassen, and how you can see it from three different viewpoints because it's in the middle of the two double spiral loops, and the fact that it means so much. It's so well known, even for people that are not real fans, and more importantly, because how I said the weather was so bad when I was out there, because because you're kind of looking down on the church from most of the viewpoints. It was actually one of the few iconic things I actually managed to see properly on my trip out there. So I can't really talk about the mountains or the Alps or anything else. But I was really chuffed. I saw the church that just clearly means so much to so many people in Switzerland that are knowledgeable about the route. So for me, it's every time I go past and see the church that just sort of signifies the how iconic the whole thing is to me.
Yes. How about yourself, Matt?
It's funny you were talking about that because whenever I was doing driving the route and stuff, my favorite part was getting to the tunnels and going up through the spiral tunnels and climbing up the mountain, and it's just a fun little area to drive, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting. The scenery changes. Not only that, the driving experience changes because it's quite steep up,
Yeah.
and then you get to the top, and then it's quite steep down again. So your style of driving changes, which is interesting.
And I would also add that there's a lot of tunnels, so you kind of have to be aware of all the signals. You have to make sure, from my point of view as a fairly novice player, you have to really make sure that you're looking forward and noting any signals because they're very important.
Yep.
So what's special about the Gotthardbahn route? If you're an Arosa line fan or a Albula, Bernina Pass, what's going to stand out for you when you're playing this one?
I mean, I think it's probably the two things that Matt and I have just picked on. We're maybe very boring. We're just picking on two things, but I think it's clearly the fact that you've got these double spiral loops and the fact that you've got something iconic like the church at Vassen you can see, but it's also it's got amazing history. It's the fact that you know, it's I think it was the longest rail tunnel in the world when it was initially built way back at the end of the 1800s. It's the fact that it was such an important route, cutting right through the middle of Switzerland, taking people and freight right down to the Italian border. I think it was a really, you know, important route in the history of Switzerland. So the fact that you've got that combined with just the beauty and variety of it, I think are the main things that make it special.
I mean, 110 kilometres. It's a very large route with some really nice variety.
Would that be one of the longest routes, at least that is detailed in your memory?
Certainly in this region.
Yep.
Absolutely. By far the longest route in this region. And of course, the other thing that I noticed this actually when I was driving it last night is that unlike the other routes, this one's standard gauge, whereas the other ones I think are meter gauge. So it actually, you know, you could, if for those of you that like being a bit more creative, making your scenarios, you've actually got a lot more stock that you could potentially try exploring on here. Personally, I want to see a steam engine going up this hill. I think that would be interesting to see. So the BR86 is going to get abused on this route at some point. So, so Dave, for me, the fact that it was standard gauge means that immediately it's compatible with all of your existing stock, which is very cool. I think there's also a crocodile on Steam as well, which actually would be based around this sort of route as well. So there's tons of variety. So one of the other things is this route, I think it runs between Switzerland and Italy, is it?
It's almost down to the Italian border. It's a couple of stops short of the Italian border, and then it crosses over not long after Bellinzona.
So, I mean, one of the things that I noticed when I was driving it last night is the architecture. It sort of there's a general change in tone of the architecture as you travel down the route as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously something everyone's keen to try and get as accurate as possible, and it talks to the importance of the surveys just to try and represent that. And I think where, you know, what's happened with many routes in the past is people have been able to reuse a bunch of assets to avoid creating everything from scratch. But I think because this has been so different, because it varies between you know, the south of the route near Bellinzona compared to once you get up into the Alps and over them. I think, if I'm right in saying, Matt, I think everything has had to be built from scratch for this. So I think that's pretty unique.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was built from scratch. And actually, talking about the style of buildings, I remember the environment team when they first started looking at the reference and actually trying to specifically pick out certain buildings so that they could make each area of the routes look authentic to that region, so that it did go from being more Italian to all the way up, and as you go north the style changes.
Yeah, that's very cool. And again, it's pulled off brilliantly. It's really noticeable as you're driving along the route. So let's have a talk about the loco.
Yep.
Tell us about the 460. About what's unique about this locomotive. What's going to be really cool about it?
I would say there's a couple of different things. One of them is the driving, the control arm where you got your throttle and all of that. That thing actually moves out because inside the cab it's very small. There's not a lot of space in there, so the driver's seat is right up against the wall. And he would have to climb over all of the consoles to get into his seat. But because the arm on the right can actually be pulled out, and we've simulated that, so you can grab that arm and push it out, and it'll move, and all the controls will still work while you're driving. So if you select the back and then just click and drag that, you can pull the arm out, and that's really to allow cool. That's to allow the driver to get out. Yeah. The other feature that I thought was quite nice that we added in is on the left on the desk. There's a little reminder kind of dials for the driver to kind of remind him of how long and heavy his train is. And we actually set that up to work. If you zoom in next to the two dials, you will be able to see how heavy and long the train is.
Okay, 78 meters and 159 tons. Excellent. And
Yeah,
that's
and
auto calculating it through the scripting, is
yep,
it?
that's dynamic. So as you change the size of your train, it will update.
That's very cool.
Nice.
That's very cool indeed. So you're particularly when with the uphills, it's less of a problem. You just have to put more power on. But as you are about to crest the summit and head downhill, it's useful to know just how much of a trouble you're in for.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. I mean, when I was looking at it, there's a really good introduction tutorial for the Loco, which I thought I was very impressed with, which just walks you through the basics of operating the Loco. So for those of you that pick the Loco up, definitely recommend you spend the 10 minutes and run that, because it does walk you through how the train works. Effectively, it uses cruise control, and you've got the brakes. It's relatively straightforward to learn to drive. It took me just the tutorial to learn, but it's really good fun.
Yes.
And actually, just on that, one of the comments I've seen a couple of times today is people not realising that there's actually 3 different manuals included with the route. So that a couple of people have thought we didn't include details about the loco or about the signalling, but there's actually a separate manual for the route, the loco and the signalling.
Yes, the signaling manual is excellent. It really helped me trying to learn everything. I could talk while I'm driving about signals that I see. For example, this one means that you should be reaching the speed shown on the previous signal by when you reach this signal. But I think it will take a lot of time, and if I talk about all of them. But generally, from my sort of point of view, it's very similar to, somewhat similar to the German signaling. At least it really helped me to look at it from sort of German perspective.
I think if you understand the German signalling system, this is relatively. It's much more simple to grasp some of the nuances that are in this one. If you're not familiar with the German signalling system, then there's a bit more to get to grips with. But it's not hard, so it's definitely worth read the manual. It'll tell you what you need to know.
Yeah.
To be able to drive the route, it's quite good.
Yes, for example,
you haven't got PZB, for example. The onboard safety system is relatively straightforward, not too dissimilar to AWS in the UK. So you haven't got PZB to worry about. Sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, but for example, the signal we're passing right now, this one, there are 2 numbers here, and the lower number is for the freight operation. So this shows 95, which means this is the maximum speed that we can reach, for example, after passing this signal. The higher number is obviously for passengers. So you have to take into account which scenario you're playing. So if it's a freight scenario, like in our case, you have to use the lower number. And also there are 2 different types of this particular signal. The one with 2 sort of black, not stripes, but corners rather. It indicates that this is a speed that you can increase to, but if it doesn't have these black corners, it means that this is a speed that you have to reduce to.
Excellent. So there's lots of little nuances there, which always makes it fun.
Yeah.
Is there anything else before we move on the 460 you guys want to talk about?
I would ask, if you don't mind.
No, you go ahead to me.
Yeah. How long did it take you to develop there is a dev blog about 460, which goes into a lot of detail, and I think there was mentioned that there is a difference between a third-person view and first-person view. So I think that the third person has a little bit less detail. If you're looking sort of from the outside, could you, if that rings a bell, could you talk about this a little bit?
So I think to make the 460, I can't remember exactly how long, but it was probably 2 months working on that vehicle alone. That's not including the coaches or the driving units. And when you do go outside of when you look from the outside of the vehicle, there is a different model for the cab, and it's for performance reasons, that you switch out and you have a slightly lower detail cab. And that's kind of standard with most of the trains in TS1.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So we're hauling freight here at the moment, Dimitri.
Yes, we're hauling freight. There are empty wagons. I think the next scenario that we'll be playing will be wagons that are not empty. What's the opposite of empty? Full?
Full. Loaded. Right, with unique and detailed catenary now complete, what areas of simulation do you think you'd like to focus more on in the future?
I think we're just keen to see what the reaction is to this route, and see what people want to see more of and see what they like. So I think it's a case of seeing more suggestions come up, and we'll take it from there. Whatever we do, I think the bottom line for us is doing a really high quality bar. But yeah, we're desperate to see what people enjoy the most in the Gothenburg route and what they'd like to see more of in the future.
So would you say that it is your players' opinion that would mostly shape the direction that the development will take place, or is it 50-50, or do you have already some ideas right now? Obviously, we're not going to talk about them, but are you going to base on people's opinions quite a lot or not?
It's probably 50-50. I mean, certainly everyone's got tons of ideas, but equally, if everyone in the community is overwhelmingly screaming for certain things, then we can be absolutely swayed by that. What we find is that sometimes we'll look into a particular idea. We're getting a lot of route suggestions at the moment, and we'll look into it. And some routes are just too long to be manageable. Some of them are, ironically, too short that we don't think we would actually do that well. Although they're absolutely beautiful, they're almost too short, and we think they maybe wouldn't sell well enough to justify the effort that would still go into making them.
Yeah.
And then it's balancing up. How long's the route? How many stations are there along the route? Do we have a relationship with the operator along that route? So I would say it's probably 50-50 that we're keen to take on board player suggestions, and then we basically have dozens and dozens of questions and things we have to look into, and if all the planets align and everything's technically possible and the timescales work and everything, then great. If not, we then have to look at the next one and the next one. So it's actually a massive job trying to decide what to do next.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, trying to actually go through the sort of the wish list that the team, I know from our perspective, the wish list the team have got versus the wish list coming in from the community. If you ask 5,000 people what route they want, you get 5,000 different answers. That just makes life brilliant. And then trying to wrestle all those down into all the different criteria of what can actually reasonably be made and what's going to be interesting and a good length, and you end up with nothing. It's a really fascinating process going through and figuring out what you're going to make. It's really good fun, actually.
Yeah, it's good fun. It can be a little frustrating because you think you've got something everyone's excited about, and you've got something that a lot of people have requested, and you find out there's some external reason why you can't do it. So we never throw those ideas away. We basically just we put them back on the list and go, okay, for whatever reason we can't do that at the moment, but
it'll come back later.
Yeah, exactly. We'll do something else for now, and we'll come back to that and hopefully do it later. Yeah.
So since we're speaking about it, what are the avenues to get in touch with you? I mean, you do have Twitter, Facebook, social media accounts, but is there any sort of forum that you have?
It's funny you should mention that. Yes, we have. We've just set up our own forums. That's probably our preferred way, if I'm honest, because then if we answer anything or anyone suggests something, everyone else can then see it in one place. So although you can reach us by Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and whatever else, and we try and monitor as many of the other forums as possible. Our own forums are our main focus, because then that way everything's in one place, everyone can see it, we can refer back to it, we can structure it. So the thinking is that maybe over time, depending on what suggestions come in, we can sort of play around with the format of the forums to group things together in whatever way makes most sense for what people are interested in. And we've also invested a bit in getting. We've got mobile app versions of the forums up and running as well, which is as much for us as anyone else. So it means that, well, literally while we're sitting on the train coming into work, we can just open up the iOS app or the Android app, and we can look at the forums, or we can post on the forums. But we know a bunch of other folk are using those as well. So definitely the forums, but equally, this week's been a bit crazy. We've replied. I think it's fair to say most of the comments that have come in through any channel, but I'm sure there's ones that have slipped through the net. But yeah, we'll always try and get back to everyone, however they get in touch with us. But the forums makes it the easiest for us, and I think just keeps it most visible for everyone else as well.
So you take feedback seriously?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's no point doing this if people don't like what we do.
I agree.
That's very cool.
I was actually had another question while I was playing. How, if that makes sense, have you taken a lot from what Alan Thompson done before in his roots and realized it again in Gotthardbahn? So did you have to come up with a lot of your own things and create your own assets to create Gotthardbahn? If that makes sense.
I mean, I think the vast majority, yeah. I mean, I think there's some. Matt, you'll be better placed than me on this, maybe, but I think there's some scripts and things for the working pantograph and things like that that are maybe the same script that Alan did for his previous routes. So I think there's a few things like that, but in terms of the assets, this everything to do with the scenery and the route, I think that's all from scratch.
Yeah, I think you're right. There might be really generic assets that we may have used. I'm not too sure because obviously I didn't work on doing any of the environment art. And yeah, we did take scripts, but a lot of them were modified quite a bit to work for the standard gauge and to work for the 460. So there were bits and pieces taken, but nothing one-to-one.
And I had another question about architecture. So if obviously we're driving a lot, so I'm not able to show a lot of scenery, but how much went into recreating all these Swiss architecture that's introduced in this route? Was it how difficult it was?
Yeah, I mean,
did it take a lot of time?
Yeah, I mean, that's it's a shame we don't have someone from the environment team on, but they've created everything from scratch. They've looked at what assets they could have reused, and basically decided actually to get the quality and to get things looking as good as they wanted. I think literally every single new building, every single new asset for the scenery has been created from scratch. So that's. I mean, in some ways it's cool, but it's also a lot of work for those folks. So it's been hard but fun. I think it's fair to say.
That pretty much counts for every route project in my experience. They're always hard work, but they're incredibly rewarding at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I've run out of questions, so
there should be a couple more questions for the very end.
We've actually touched on the points throughout the other things. I take it you guys are already working on your next project.
Yeah. We're not announcing anything yet, and it's we obviously had to start work on it as people started to roll off this route, so. That was selected before we've seen a lot of the feedback that's coming at the moment. And although I can't give any spoilers, I think it's fair to say that people won't be disappointed. I think we're gonna give a lot of people what they're looking for. So we'll announce that in due course. And then going forward, as we said earlier, part of the sort of ramp up of Rivet Games from inception at the start of this year included bringing new people to the team that were new to making train sim content. So they're now fully up to speed. So actually we're hoping to do more faster in future. So hopefully it won't be it's not going to be in the next couple of weeks or anything daft like that, but in the not so distant future, hopefully we'll be able to announce plans for what we're doing next.
That's really cool. One of the moderators on Twitch has just asked whether we can recap about the possibility of UK routes. So essentially what was discussed there was that it's nothing's off the table, but I think at this point it seems like it's more about looking at where are the territories that aren't used too much. Is that fair to say, Colin?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we think the UK is very well catered for by Rivet. There's always by Dovetail. Sorry, there's always going to be other routes to be done. Our preference is to try and bring new countries online.
Oh, we're just coming up to Base Tunnel.
Right.
This is where the start of the construction is. The base tunnel's in front of us, and the Alpine line swings off to the right and continues up over it. But yeah, we were talking about Base Tunnel earlier on, and here it is, folks.
Yeah, we're going pretty good. Signal. Okay, that's important.
Very good.
Yeah, I need to be slowing down very quickly because we're almost done with this scenario, but we still have one more. So we will. It's not the end yet.
More questions, folks. Bus Driver GP, would it be technically possible to do rack mountain routes? In theory. I did actually see the... I can't remember where it is, but there is actually... I think it's a rack mountain route on here, isn't there? At one of the stations, it kind of goes up past it. The BGP or something like MGP. I can't remember. Someone was telling me about it while I was streaming. So rack mountain routes are potentially possible in Train Sim 2019, but the challenge is that the more vertical the track goes, the more it starts becoming unstable. Train Sim not really meant to do those kind of steep gradients.
Yeah, Alan and I spoke about, because there's quite a few in Switzerland, and we spoke about doing them, but it is quite a technical challenge to do those kind of routes.
Yeah, I've lost some points.
You've lost points? Right, that's it. We need a new driver.
6 points.
Don't say that, they'll make me do it. No, I'm not allowed to drive.
I was actually wondering what. So obviously you've got 460, but what other stock that runs on this route in real life?
There's quite a lot. I wouldn't be able to say off the top of my head because I'm not too familiar with all the Swiss trains yet. But there is a lot. When I was out there, there was many different vehicles running up and down on those routes.
Yeah.
With the way that the route twists and turns, I think a tilting train would probably be really good.
Yeah.
Possibly make you quite sick, but...
Which one do you think?
When I was driving it, one of my viewers was saying they wanted to run an ICET over the line, and I want to run a Pendolino over the line, so we've got it covered. We're going to experiment. Between that and the steam engine, I think insanity is going to rule.
So did you guys have any kind of maybe perhaps sort of a party yesterday when the route launched, or maybe it's in the future? What are your plans? On celebration?
We had a party. Was it last Friday?
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, because that was the point when everyone was definitely done. And actually, we've got a few people off on holiday this week. So, like Alan, it was off on holiday this week.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. So it made sense to have the party last Friday. So we went out for some light beverages. So that was quite good fun. And this week has been everyone's focused on the new route that we've started on, as well as just trying to create things that we can talk about this route on social media. So we've been trying to create new screenshots and new things we can put up. The day we launched, yesterday, August the 1st in Switzerland, it's actually Swiss National Day. So it was great. Once the route had been finished, some of the artists were able to spare some time and make some nice screenshots with fireworks and everything. I think that's I think we do the night before August the 1st. So it was great to be able to create sort of bespoke things like that for everyone that follows our accounts, and they seem to have gone down really well. And one of the things that's gone down particularly well was did a sort of screenshot comparison. I think it was at the Vassen curve we did, where we compared a screenshot from in game to a photo from the real world, and put that up on Facebook and everything, and that seems to have gone down an absolute storm. So it's been nice this week for to have the time, because the team are just so busy trying to do the route up until that point. They don't have time to do anything like that. So this week's been me, sort of bit pleading and begging for as much time for people to do things like that as possible. But I think it's generated a lot of attention, and it's good. It's good to see. But yeah, the last days have just been crazy for me in terms of dealing with all the queries that come in, and it was actually quite overwhelming how many people, although we announced it was getting launched yesterday, we didn't say what time. Yeah. But basically all morning and it felt like every minute of the day up until the point when we launched the route, people were just clamoring to get hold of it, and you were just constantly telling folk, not yet, but soon, come back soon. So that was again hard work, but great to see the excitement for it.
Yeah, there's a lot of dedicated fans out there, which is absolutely awesome.
Absolutely, yeah. No, the engagement's been it's just been off the charts. We're a new company, so in terms of, you start a Twitter account and you open a YouTube channel, and you start with 0 subscribers, and you're like, well, I'll subscribe to it from a personal account. Go right, we've got 1 subscriber. So you get to launching your first product, worried that, what if it's only me that's still the sole subscriber to our YouTube channel, and the numbers are still pretty small, but it has gone through the roof this past week or two. There's been a lot of excitement, and that's been great to see.
So there you go, folks. Make sure you head over to the YouTube channel for Rivet Games, and Facebook, and hit like, subscribe, and all the usual gubbins.
Yeah, thank you. So we've completed another scenario, not exactly flawlessly, but I think it was fine. We're actually running out of time a little bit for next scenario, so I think what we're gonna do, we'll try to see how much I've got. Oh my god, that's a
599.
Wow.
I never saw that. It looked like 1,000 to me.
Yeah, what do we have? I think, can we run through the locomotive tutorial?
Do the introduction.
Yes.
Yeah, good shout.
We should have just done it in the beginning, but we definitely don't want to run another scenario for another half an hour. We don't just have
Maybe
time.
We can do a railfan mode after that as well.
Yep.
Sit and watch trains for a bit.
Yep. How's the feedback been so far? I know Colin, you've been looking at the German forums as well, especially before it was actually released, when it was announced at least. So would you say, how was the feedback so far? What do you think from German fans and from anyone else?
Yeah, I mean the feedback's been it's been really, really touching. Actually, it's just been overwhelmingly positive. It seems to be a route that people have been waiting desperately for. They seem really happy with how good it looks, with how good Matt's trains are. It's been 99% overwhelmingly positive. The one thing that we're going to look into, I saw there was a comment in the forum just here as well, talking about the horn sound. Obviously, Alan's on holiday at the moment, but we'll look into that when Alan's back. and just check what the case is with the audio there. But everything else has been absolutely brilliant. So we've been trying to sort of keep on top of it and share as many of the comments with the team as possible. But they're all going online. They can, they're seeing what everyone's seeing about the routes. So everyone's quite touched by it all.
Matt, is there anything else you would you could talk about in Cap itself that we haven't touched upon yet? Is there anything interesting that like the console, for example, any specific interesting points, and that you would like to talk about? Is there just anything interesting?
Some of the interesting things, I guess, is the dials. So you got the digital dial on the right, but you've also got your analog dials in the center, and they do link up, and they both work correctly. So you can see how the train's performing on both screens. Obviously, the screen on the right's a lot easier to kind of see a lot of the information. But I think we covered some already, like a lot of the good features. We never had the warning system go off, the safety system kind of go, I think, during your drive, but that's really interesting when it goes, and you get all the beeps, and that was authentically replicated, so it's actually interesting when it does trigger. It works how you would expect it to work.
I was actually, this question is probably going to be quite stupid, so I'm sorry, all of you, but there is the lever for throttle and braking on this particular loco. There's one that if you pull it back, it uses a dynamic braking, right? But I've noticed that I didn't find it very effective. So it's braking, but not very effectively.
It's only braking the loco, so dynamic brakes only actuate the. Effectively, you're turning the motors that would create power normally. The polarity essentially reverses, and now if you spin a motor, you can turn the light bulb on. Remember that experiment from science. Essentially, what's happening here is that by turning the motors into generators, essentially, they create drag on the wheels, which slows things down. So you're not wearing brake shoes or anything like that out.
I believe also with the dynamic brake, it really only is effective when you're above a certain speed. I think you have to be going quite fast before you actually notice. So if you're driving slowly, because I also thought the dynamic brake wasn't working correctly when I was first testing it. But if you're going, I think under 20 kilometers, maybe even more than that, it's not really doing much.
No, the dynamic brake is most effective at trimming your speed or maintaining your speed. So if you're coming down the grade or down either side of the hill, you want to use the dynamic brake to help trim your speed rather than constantly applying and releasing air brakes, it's slow to do because that's how air brakes work. Whereas a dynamic brake has got an instant response and is more than enough to manage your speed, especially if necessary, with a combination of a little bit of air brake across the rest of the train, it's a standard technique used for descending grades, and the Americans use it quite often for bringing their massive trains down hills, but even in this instance it very much is how it'll do it. And the cruise control uses the dynamic brake as well. You'll see that as you're coming down the hill, you've got the cruise control set at 80 kilometers an hour or something, and it'll just sit there gradually applying and releasing the managing the speed using the dynamics. It's much easier.
I was under the impression that it uses air brakes for that, but I found if you saw me playing, I was mostly both braking and throttling with the cruise control. Is that actually a normal practice to brake with the cruise control?
Just let the cruise control manage it.
Yeah.
Obviously, as a driver, you're always fully responsible for the train. You should never rely on any onboard system to manage your speed.
Yeah.
Cruise control implementation on this is it's not like some systems. There's two types of cruise control. You've got the tempomat speed set type cruise controls, which will only power the train. The cruise control on board the 460 is also going to brake the train as well, so it's going to slow the train down.
Yes, technical talk, I like it. So we're almost done with this tutorial, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't find this loco, as a noob, I didn't find it particularly too difficult to drive, so highly recommend it, obviously. We should be able to go into railfan mode in a second.
One of the things I really like about this tutorial is it, instead of just saying, and here's the throttle and here's this, it actually uses the controls, and you can see them going through like here it's going to activate the wipers and then put them back again. And then I think, I don't know if we've done it yet, but there was a reverser where you could see what the reaction from the reverser was as well, which is really cool. So you got to actually, this is what you're going to get when you get in the trains. So none of this stuff becomes a surprise, which is really cool.
Yeah, so cruise control is controlled by obviously Y and C buttons. Y for increase.
And there's a lever actually. If you like driving with the levers, it's on the right hand side there. This one down here, the V controller.
It's a bit tricky to get it. And let's see the console again. It's beautiful.
I think that's going to fall off before long. Now we've shown him how to do that. He's going to break it.
Please no. What was the task? I stopped at the
You just got to drive forward a little bit. Again, it's quite nice. It's a really short journey to just get forward, but you'll get a signal activation that you've got to respond to. So it sort of tests out some of the stuff that you've just been taught. So it's a good thing to, if you come back to the local after a little while of not playing it, you can run the introduction tutorial just to refresh your skills on how to actually drive it.
Yeah, so guys in the chat and watching, it's probably your last 5-10 minutes to ask the questions that you wanted to ask. And from Colin and Matt, who are both working for Rivet Games, we're very pleased to have them here. Thank you very much, Colin and Matt, for coming in and answering all the questions that we have. We're really hoping you enjoyed the stream yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, this has been fun actually. Yeah, do we have to stop? Can we go on for another minute?
Well, we could, yes, absolutely, yeah.
We're not quite done yet, but we're
Well, this is a V signal. It means that there will be a danger in the distance, so you need to be aware of it. See, I'm learning. I'm doing it.
He knows a lot more than I do. I just drive until it says signal past a danger and then do it and then try again and see if I don't get it next time.
You're lying, come on man. We know you're an expert. Yeah guys, last chance. And by the way, so if you're looking to buy the route, it's available with a 10% discount right now. I'm actually not sure, is it the same discount on Rivet Games store as well?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think it works out a few pence or cents differently, just depending on the percentage.
Yeah,
but it's pretty much the same.
Yeah. So this discount will apply for two weeks. You will get a chance to get it right with a discount for the next 2 weeks. And if I haven't looked at your website, I think you have a sort of an offer where you offer the base game Train Simulator plus the route for a certain price.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, kind of what I touched on before, that we're really keen not just to cater to existing fans, but we want to see if we can bring more people into the world of Train Simulator as well. So we've got quite a nice discount. Yeah. If you buy the bundle of the core TS19 game and the route. So we're hoping that brings in new people, and then if we do move into other countries, we'd look to do the same there as well. Because there's real fans all over the world, isn't there? So the more of them we can get in, the more content is then viable to produce, and I think everyone benefits.
Yeah, I mean, it still amazes me to this day that we'll go to something like the NEC exhibition in November, and the number of people we talk to who just come up to us and say, "So what's this then?" It's been around a while, but. There's a lot of messaging to get out there, and obviously that's just UK audience. Obviously, you get out further afield, and even more people just don't know about this amazing hobby that we've all got.
Yeah. Speaking of which, do you think Colin would be able to see you sometime, perhaps even in November, personally?
Oh, I'm sure that can be arranged. I'm not sure. I'm not sure anyone would get too excited about seeing me in person, but I mean we're aiming to be quite active. We're not going to be able to go to every event and everything, but we're keen to be out and about. So we'll certainly be at some things going forward.
That's great.
Awesome. Watch this space, folks.
Yeah. So, what was the? Could you please tell us, remind us rather, what were the? How can people contact you and find you? I think it's Rivet Games on Twitter, Facebook, and pretty much everywhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got our own forums. They're the best place to go to. So that's just forums.rivet-games.com.
Okay.
But we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. We actively monitor all those channels. So just give us a shout. We're trying to share cool screenshots. We're trying to give people an insight into what the team do, how we do things.
Mm-hmm.
We had I think it was the 5th dev blog go up today. So that was one of the environment artists talking about building some of the buildings that we've actually seen in this past hour or so.
Yep.
And we've got another couple of dev blogs that we'll put up next week as well. But if we're really keen to do this stuff, so if anyone wants to see anything in particular, like a dev blog from a particular person or about a particular thing, we're really open to ideas. So do just give us a shout, and we'll, if we can do it, we'll certainly try.
And speaking of dev blogs, how many are there going to be in total? I think you still have some sort of a post-release support for the route, don't you?
Yeah, so we've got 7 for the Gotthard ban in total. So there's 5 now up. The next 2 will go out Tuesday and Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of completes the set in terms of what we thought would be interesting to kind of give an insight into how the Gotthard ban came about. But it's one of those where, like everything else, we're going to do a bunch of stuff. We'll see what people like and don't like. So far, the dev blogs looks like they've gone down quite well.
Yep.
But once we've got them all out there, we'll see whether we feel it justified the effort, because it was quite a lot of work.
Yeah.
Taking people away from root production, getting them filmed, even though they're only 5 minutes, it's still meant the editors had to go away and put them together. But we'll have a look, see if they're worthwhile, and see what suggestions there are for doing anything like that on future routes if there's a demand for it.
There you go, folks. Make sure you pass on your thoughts about how you'd like to interact with Rivet and what you want to hear from them. Going over to their forums, and not just about the products, it's also about the way that you're interacting with them as well.
Yep.
So if you press the 8 camera then and just fly up, we're actually in Vassen at the moment, so which means we should have a church somewhere nearby.
Perhaps over there.
Is that it over there? I think that might be it over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it over there. So you can see all of the track around you. If we bring up a track map at the moment, it winds backwards and forwards over this area here several times. So it's really, really interesting. So of course you get that one view of the church numerous times. That whole area actually, it's quite stunning, because it's stepped. The scenery steps as you go up or down this thing. It's really interesting.
Looking down. Very interesting. And what was? I'm sorry, I'm probably sounding stupid, but what is so special about this particular church?
Well, it's the fact that it's in the middle of these 2 spiral loops that go inside the Alps. So basically, you can see it from 3 completely different perspectives. Before you go into the first loop, as you come out of the first loop, and before you go into the second, and then after the second one. So on the first one, just down on the left there, you're almost sort of looking up at the church, and then I think the other 2 vantage points, you're sort of looking down at it, but from completely different perspectives. So I think it's it's pretty much completely unique in the world, where you've got something that's really iconic that you can look at from these 3 different vantage points.
Yeah.
And as I was saying earlier, it feels like everyone in Switzerland, this is this is super famous. Everyone knows this.
Yeah.
And yeah, certainly even when the weather was bad when I was there, it was just really striking. You came out of one of the tunnel loops, and you just sort of look down that valley with with the church, and then the valley in the background, and it's just spectacular.
That's brilliant. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Just a reminder for everyone watching, if you've missed any parts, I will upload this stream to YouTube. It actually should be available almost immediately. It's just that there are some small editing bits that I would like to do and, cut off the very beginning or the end. So thank you very much, Colin and Matt, for joining in us today. We hope you really enjoyed it.
No,
Yeah, it was good.
Great.
Yes, thank you very much indeed,
Thank you very much
gents.
for having us. Yeah.
There's a lot of information. We're looking forward to hearing from you soon with your new routes and to see what is it that you're going to create next. We're very happy about it. Thank you very much. And thank you, Matt, for coming today after a very long, busy day. Very, very,
That's
very...
not a problem at all. Always a pleasure.
All right.
Always a pleasure.
All right.
And thank you for joining us as well, viewers. And keep an eye out on social media for news of when the next stream will be.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much, people on the stream, and hope you enjoyed. And I will send you all the links later on social media. Thank you very much, guys.
Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
Cheers.
Great,
Bye-bye.
thanks,
Cheers, Colin and
guys.
Matt.
Bye. Bye.